Stand up.
Hello and happy Saturday. I've got comedian, commentator Christian Finnegan joining me today. Very excited to have him back. We actually had a conversation last week, but then I canned it. I shelved it. I dumped it even because we were talking so much about what might happen with the presidential campaign of one Joe Biden, and then it happened, and it just seemed so no longer relevant, and I didn't want to do that to you. But when I caught up with Christian yesterday, we talked all about where we're at now, had a great conversation, and I loved it. And I am so glad that I've got him back. It's entirely my fault that he hasn't been here. I don't know why he hasn't been here. I've been doing all kinds of different things with guest booking on the fly, but I'm planning all kinds of exciting guests in the next couple of weeks, and I hope that you notice and appreciate it, as well as that we've got Christian back. We had a great conversation as always. I love to drop this on a Saturday as a little surprise to you. We opened the conversation, by the way, talking about his recent colonoscopy. I'm always happy to talk about any kind of procedures people have, so as to destigmatize it or make folks feel a little bit more comfortable about health and aging and these kinds of preventative procedures that we all should absolutely participate in if we can. Of course, Christian is a real nerd, a real music, television, film nerd, but you've got to subscribe to his Substack. That's the best way to support him and get great new useful ideas on music. Go check it out at newmusicforolds.substack.com. I'm a very proud subscriber, and I'm real happy to have Christian back. And if you like this conversation, go listen to him with Matty C. Matt Carlson talked to him over at his podcast, What Am I Making? And finally, Christian and I here talk at the end about the fact that on August 22nd, we are going to be together at his wife's venue in Queens, New York, QED, to host a live watch party for Kamala Harris's speech from Chicago at the DNC. We will be live and sharing that, of course, on Zoom with anybody that can't make it. But if anybody is in New York on August 22nd and wants to come, email me. We don't have a ticket link just yet. We just announced it. standupwithpete@gmail.com. NYC Watch Party would be the subject for that, and I will put you on the list right away. All right, here we go. Christian Finnegan returns. Oh, we've got him exclusively post-colonoscopy. Christian Finnegan, everybody. You okay?
Am I okay? Feel great. Lighter than air.
I see you tweeted about it. I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk about it on the show, if you want to talk about it publicly, but I see you have tweeted about it, and apparently they found...
Gold doubloons. Yes. I'm rich. 40 gold doubloons.
Wow. Congratulations. Yeah. Your first colonoscopy.
It was my first professional one.
Oh, you had an amateur one. That's right. When we first started in comedy, Christian used to do a bit.
That was my whole shtick. So that's the camera up his ass guy. That was my you might be a redneck.
An actual VH1 best week ever from inside your colon, if I'm not mistaken.
I did a best internal potentially cancerous organ ever.
So you feel good? You're out. They found a couple little things, but you're good. You're not.
Yeah, I think they found a few polyps they'll have analyzed, but the general vibe was that it probably will be 5 years. You can always find out differently, but I think they were reasonably unimpressed with what they found.
That's a nice relief to have that.
Bill. It is. It had been lingering, and you start, of course, immediately once you get something like that on the calendar, then you start convincing yourself that's, clearly I have something horribly wrong with me. And so it was a good thing to get out of the way. That prep is a lot of fun. If you haven't had one yet.
The thing. And so how did it go for you? Did you have any issues at all?
My wife was out of town. And so I literally just parked myself on the toilet for 3 hours. Yeah. I was just there. I was drinking the solution on the toilet and just letting it run through me.
I think the hardest part of the colonoscopy is not eating for a certain amount of time.
Yeah. There's a full, 4 or 5 days, you have to not eat certain things. And it's very like anything with a peel or a rind or any legumes.
You eat banana peels, so that must be hard for you.
I do. There's a drug you can make called bananidine, which apparently is like if you somehow do something to dried banana peels, it can be like a psychedelic drug.
Oh, interesting. There's a lot of nutrients. I use them for my garden. There's a lot of good stuff in the banana peel, but I was joking about ingesting.
No, it's apparently. But yeah, and you're not, and then in the lead up, you're not supposed to eat anything like red or purple, which just seems bizarre. But yeah, so it was, but then the day of there, you don't eat anything for, I think it was like 36. It was the whole day before. And then I didn't have my colonoscopy until about like 11 o'clock the next morning. So it was like 30 hours of not eating.
Yeah, I feel like you did too much. I feel like you went overboard. I didn't think about what I ate before, just the time.
I definitely, I did not want to go in there and them tell me like, you fucked up. Now we got to do this again.
They knocked you out? Good drug?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They told me when I was going under, they're like, you'll probably fall asleep for a bit, but then you'll come back and you'll be half awake. And I was like, wait, so I'll be half awake through the colonoscopy? And they're like, yeah. I was like, and I'm like, do they have to do that? So, no, we can knock you out entirely. It's like, why would I not want to do that?
Yeah.
Why would I want to be even remotely sentient through this process?
I came to with a few minutes left.
Too?
Me and the doctor came.
Yeah.
Which is super weird. Not so much for me, but for him, it seems routine. No, I came to and they was still going on. And I said, I'm awake. And then he said, that's okay. We're almost done. And I said out loud, more drugs, please. And he said, we can't do that. And I was like, oh. Really
yeah, I think when they were putting me under, I said something like, give me everything you got or something. I apparently had some sort of comment as I was going under to make sure that I was.
Give me everything you got. What the hell?
Something like that. They told me I said something. Apparently when I had my heart surgery, I was cracking all sorts of jokes and stuff on the table as I was going under, but I don't remember any of it. So it's a comedian's impulse, just like nervous energy to transform into like just doing shtick. I think I
heard they humiliatingly said he's a very funny comedian. Did you know that? And then the last thing you heard was, I think his name is Greg Rogel. Is that?
Oh man.
Very funny. I love Greg. Okay. You and I talked a week ago and that we got all the let out and where you'd been in the last few weeks, which I hadn't been inviting.
I excoriated you for your
excoriated me, and it was very funny. And I might just edit those things back in here because I dumped that interview for the first time ever. I would never dump.
I've never been negged so hard in my life. I've never been just treated so poorly by someone I was not sleeping with.
Right. I am sorry about that.
You went months. I think it was 8 months since I'd last been on the show. No, it wasn't. Okay.
Probably a month, maybe.
It feels longer. I know I was on once since Vegas. Is
that right?
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Yeah. I blame you.
Yeah, it was absolutely my fault. But I'm glad to get you back in here, hopefully regularly if you can, because I miss talking to you. I love your perspective on things. But the reason I got rid of that interview, of course, is because we talked a lot about the speculation around would he or wouldn't he, Joe Biden, step down and what would happen. And it just felt so irrelevant based on we did that the day before it happened. A lot of different media, including Last Week Tonight, which I am the audience warm-up fluffer on. We tape on Saturday. He does the show about the current situation. And then on Sunday afternoon, before the show even tapes, she's out. So even the best of the best had to a little bit less relevant at that point. But I run a sleek, slick operation. I've got you back. And now we can talk about where we're at in the world, given the current situation. First of all, before we get to Kamala, your thoughts on this JD Vance? And you've been tweeting about the couch fucking thing. Can you take...
I retweet a little. I know it's going to run its course like all memes and bits do.
I know, but I wanted your take on it because I think that young people are the meme makers. Funny people are the meme makers. And they're more likely, not exclusively, to support Kamala and want to make fun of conservatives. It's the way it's been with comedy. It's not exclusive. But what do you think of that bit, that made-up rumor about J.D. Vance and the life it has taken, the fact that the Associated Press had to correct the record? No, J.D. Vance did not have sex with the couch. These kind of things are effective.
And it's using kind of evil to positive ends. It's the kind of thing that conservatives have been doing, not as a joke, but for real, for at least the last 4 election cycles, of just taking something completely apocryphal or just completely made up and then making the refusal to answer to the made up thing the story of like, why won't Obama talk about his birth certificate or whatever, and that then people are saying, and yeah, you're the people saying it. And then you're reporting on people saying it. I mean, it's Jester's version of that. Let's take this tweet that's very funny and sounds conceivably like the kind of thing that could be in a coming of age memoir. some dude talking about how he was a horny teenager and maybe he fucked the couch. And people who haven't read Hillbilly Elegy, of which I am one, you could read that and be like, yeah, that might be in the book. That makes sense. That could be in the book. And people still like, they're not 100% sure if it's made up or not. Now there's this dolphin thing, which I haven't read the article.
Whoa, what do we got? There's another one?
Yes, but this is not made up. This is, I am completely going off of one of those raw story tweets, and I don't even know if they're a legit news service or whatever. But apparently he left a browser window open on his computer screen that was something about dolphin porn. Which
J.D. Vance, subject of ridicule this weekend after attempting to post a photo on social media that took an aim at could be found on the internet. The Ohio senator was mocked on his own social media post because of a picture that he shared, which showed a dolphin apparently attempting to mate with a woman. Maybe the internet was a mistake, Vance posted Saturday with the picture, which was captioned, "Woman gets violated by dolphin and enjoys it."
Okay, he's clearly, listen, all's fair in love and politics, whatever, but come on. He's clearly making a joke about it. Isn't this ridiculous? The kinds of things you can find on the internet or whatever, based literally on what you just told me. I'm not gonna be the party pooper.
What do you think from the larger standpoint of satire with this guy, with Trump, with the RNC and everything we saw on stage there? Hulk Hogan, we always talked about politics has become pro wrestling, and now there's just no more in at all.
Irony was resurrected and then re-killed. It was like they dug up irony and then blew it up with a hand grenade.
Right.
I think that they were high on their own supply at the convention. They clearly were feeling it, and I don't blame them, because everybody, the great, just the sea change that's happened in the last 5 days is that it's like somebody opened up a door and just giant breeze came through. And we've been driving with the engine light on for the past 6 months. We've been this feeling of just, when you're driving, your like gas light is not only on, but it's like flashing, and you're like, oh fuck, like this is going to end badly at any time. And to just all of a sudden be able to go proactive and not just be in this defensive crouch. It's unreal. I've never felt an emotional sea change that's sort of society wide like this before. I've never just seen things turn on a dime so quickly. It's funny because going back to medical issues, my doctor upped my Prozac dosage at my request. And my first day of taking the new dosage was Sunday morning. And it's already paying dividends, because then Biden is, oh my God, it's working. And I have felt like I've been walking on air for the past 5 days.
Oh man.
And James Carville's out there now being like, oh, we got to tamp down this enthusiasm, and it's going to be the ice pick is coming or whatever. Dude, no, you don't understand that it's like joy and enthusiasm is in and of itself a strategy. It is a strategy, and it is a desperately needed feeling. It is the feeling of having forward momentum and working towards something, as opposed to trying to keep your various fingers in the dike about to explode. You can't be overstated how different the feeling.
That's so well said. It's so important what you just said. You're seeing that joy and enthusiasm play out in actual strategy with donations. Calm down, just calm down. No, don't calm down, because that means you'll stop giving money. You'll stop wanting to do things. Use that enthusiasm, use that momentum, and we don't need any more warnings from James Carville.
No. If James Carville wants to tell me about the literal nuts and bolts of how to run a field office, sure, or how to contact delegates or something, yes, I will have. But in terms of macro strategy and in terms of what today's voters want, I don't know that he would have any better of an idea than my dad. I have no idea that James Carville has any better of an idea what a 22-year-old living in Chicago or whatever, living in Austin, Texas, anywhere, wants more than any other person of his generation. I don't know, this gold watch mentality. I've been doing this for decades, so my voice should carry additional weight. Not when it comes to this stuff, when it comes to macro trends and mass psychology. I don't think he has his finger on the pulse at all.
But I bet your dad does. Speaking of which, your dad.
He may.
Have you talked to him yet about Kamala? Because my dad,
we've been playing phone tag. I've not talked to him directly, and that's another thing. And I don't want to poo on my dear father, who I love very much. But a lot of the people who are accusing Biden are accusing the Biden people of hiding this. That they've been keeping him in whatever, that they've been
scandal. They've been hiding his cognitive decline. Yes. They haven't been honest with us. It's a scandal. I want an investigation.
The mere fact that I'm having a hard time constructing a sentence tells you that this is not purely an elderly thing. But I think I do wonder whether any of these people have elderly parents, because I love my dad, but over the past 4 years, every time I see him, it's like a fucking A24 movie jump scare of how much older he seems. Right. And it happens quickly. And some days are better than others. And it's like watching that time elapse footage of that wolf who's like decomposing. Have you ever seen that, where the wolf carcass is like, they speed it up and it turns into like mush? Have you ever seen that?
I don't think so.
It's like a famous piece of film of just a dead wolf decomposing. That's how it feels when a person crosses a certain threshold. I don't mean to be, I'm not trying to be I don't want to be ageist or anything like that, but it's like sometimes when decline happens, it can be radical and shocking. And whatever. I have not talked to my dad about Kamala. I would assume he is gung-ho about it. I'm sure that he's very much your sort of standard issue Democrat who wants to fret about everything and is always convinced that whatever Fox News propaganda is going to rule the day.
Have you been surprised to see everybody fall in behind this woman for president and not have almost anybody of importance or influence complain about lack of getting the opportunity to weigh in, or an open convention, or this is not democracy, this is a coronation? You're hearing that from a lot of people on the right. They're really mad that we're not mad. Yeah. But I haven't heard anybody who supports Kamala Harris or Democrats, anybody of influence or that I respect, be like, no, we should have had. Ezra Klein made a case for it. I heard him on his podcast, but he's also changed his mind because of the way that everybody's basically fallen in, that Democrats are not in disarray. They're in array. And it's not like this is like some random senator that they put forward. This is the vice president of the United States. This is the person who ostensibly would be handed the mantle. It would be her race to lose 4 years from now. If Biden got reelected, it would be her nomination to lose then. That's just the way American politics has functioned. I also just think that there's an immediacy to the problem where people nobody's fucking around. We know what's going on. We see the sort of forces gathered against democracy. We see it. We see the creeps and criminals and scumbags and outright fascists who are aligning on the other side. And I think that there's a seriousness to this, not just a joy, but like a joyful sense of purpose of this is the time. And I'm seeing some anecdotal people, a few friends of mine who I ostensibly respect, who seem to spend a lot of time tweeting about Kamala, even though they consider them they're leftists or whatever. But and I don't know. What I hope is that we can put receipts culture on hold for a few months. Yeah,
I think everyone is concerned about maintaining their personal brand, and they don't want to be out. They don't want to do anything that violates this avatar that they have put forward online. And if you are an outspoken leftist, or if you're part of DSA or something like that, that it is anathema for you to ever vote for someone like Kamala Harris. And because you're worried that someday you're going to be in a Twitter argument calling for something, a leftist cause, and somebody's going to find your old tweet where you talk about supporting Kamala Harris, and they're going to say, this right. You? Like, everyone is afraid of this you. That thing that people always say, this will show some old tweet.
Yeah.
And it's just, we've just got to just take all of that bitterness and just haughty, vicious snark, and just for the next few months, just turn it inwards on yourself. Just don't
put our differences
against other people
aside as well as we organize. Like, I don't have to like everything that this candidate stands for. I don't have to like you. And I'm working with you to organize getting out the vote in my community or my state. And I don't like you. Too bad. It's not about that. It's not about your misgivings about this person. We're all on the same page to try to defeat Donald Trump and find some kind of a decent, secure future for ourselves and our families and our planet. And so don't be petty. Now is not the time to create division. I've never seen unity like this. And this is a good person to get behind.
And especially if you're the kind of person who would not be directly harmed by a Trump second term, I especially am not interested in your perspective right now. If you're a Palestinian American, if you have connections to Gaza, or if you're a person of color or a gay or trans person who's, I just can't vote for Kamala Harris. Yeah. I disagree with you. I wish you'd reconsider. But you know what? You have skin in the game. You're going to be the one bearing the brunt of a second Trump term. If that's a decision you've come to, at the end of the day, I can't argue with you. But if you're somebody like you or me, who it's like, at the end of the day, we're really not in danger of the kind of immediate, we're not faced with the immediate danger that certain communities would face by a second Trump term. We'd be further back in line. I especially just don't want to hear that crap from you.
Very well said. You tweeted with a picture of Kamala Harris 4 days ago, I'm ready to normie more than I've ever normied before. Unpack that term for those of us that are older and less hip and what you mean by
being a normie. It's being like a straight down the middle, like Democrat, wanting a blue wave resistor, that of being more of a Democrat than a progressive. Do you know what I mean? Being a party, being a functionary of the sort of mainstream Democratic Party, and not trying to be hip or rebellious or overly countercultural. I'm ready to fall in line and be a soldier for this candidate and this candidacy and this moment, this hurdle, because for however long it's been since Obama took office, 16 years now, everybody used to talk about the Tea Party and about breaking the fever. And so if we can just get past this election, then the fever will break and things will go back to normal. I'm not naive anymore. Like, clearly that's not going to be the case. But I do think that if we can get over this hurdle with Trump, and we talked about this a bit on the phone yesterday, I think, that Trump ain't running again in 4 years. First of all, he'll theoretically potentially be in prison or at least home arrest or something like that. He'll be older than Biden is now. It's not realistic to think that he would run again 4 years from now. And there's just nobody else out there with that special sauce. There's people who are as strident as him. There are people who have the same politics as him to the extent that he has them, that aren't just self-serving bullshit. But there's nobody that combines that level of appeal to fascists, but is also like a familiar face who we saw in Home Alone 2 30 years ago.
I used to think you're right. I still think you're probably right. And I hope that you are, because who would it be? It would have to be some kind of performer who's already famous, somebody's already a famous brand.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
Just like a billionaire who's famous.
But just think of all the low information, the chuds, the people who are thrilled by a Kid Rock or Hulk Hogan appearance at the convention. Think about those people who didn't really vote, or if they voted, they weren't invested. They weren't going to rallies. I just don't know who is going to appeal to the Nick Fuenteses of the world, and also the John Deere tractor guy who just has never been to a political rally, but just falls in love with the Trump phenomenon. I just don't know who captures that combination of public cult of personality and also dangerous right-wing politics. I just don't know if anybody else has that combo.
Do you think that the current criticisms and attacks on Kamala Harris are already backfiring? A lot of people are saying the sexism and the misogyny and the racism and bigotry. Specifically, I have one that I think is interesting that J.D. Vance is getting dragged for, as he should, is being critical of women who don't have children. You did not produce any children for your wife, or she did not produce any for you. Are you less than? Do you think you and Cambry should have a voice at the vote, even without having offspring? Do you think you're valid? Do you think she's valid?
I don't know. I question my own validity, and I question her validity for having married me.
That's different, though. But we're talking about whether or not
I should have a vote. It's obviously just so stupid, and it's just button pushy, and it's not a serious political it's just a way to public backlash and scorn against childless people. It's a culture war argument. It's not a political argument.
Yeah.
Because just follow through to its logical conclusion. Because I will say, in his defense, in the larger section of that speech he gave, he did carve out like people who can have kids and, you know, if you listen to what he said before that,
look at me with all my soundbite reactions. I didn't know there was caveats and nuance with this.
There is, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because, first of all, you're in politics. He's like, first of all, let's talk about all the people who can't have kids for whatever reason. Let's set them aside. And then the clip that everybody's been going, you know, then that starts. But really follow that through. Okay, so people who don't have children by choice should not have as much say, but people who are infertile, they should have the same rights. Okay, how do you determine that? Or are you going to have medical testing to tell me whether I'm allowed to vote or not? Or are you going to test my sperm count? Like if I have above a certain sperm count and I haven't made babies, it's so stupid. It's not a serious political argument. It's just meant to advance it's meant to be like a cultural bullying point.
You told me one time off air that your sperm count was 3.
My sperm, yes, I raised it to 3. It's a real love triangle between the 3 of them too. It's a lot of jockeying for position, but who's the best sperm?
Okay, what else did I want to ask you about?
When I ejaculate, my penis makes a sighing sound.
That is very funny. Yeah. I can't believe I've never heard that joke before. I guess it's probably because it's true of you. Do you care about the Olympics?
No. Yeah, I really don't. And again, maybe that makes me a bad American. Once they're on, I'll find myself watching. Certain events are more interesting than others, but by and large, I'm not really I'm not an Olympics head.
All right, then I haven't too. I have nothing except for I saw that there was some kind of arson attack. That looks like there's some kind of terrorist attack unfolding on.
They're calling it vandalism. They're calling it because they were just like substations that were set on fire that control the track switching and things like that. And so I think it's just made to cause chaos and annoyance. And of course, then you start to wonder, what are they planning afterwards to make people not be able to leave the city? Whatever, your brain goes to places. But if you think of France over the past 20 years, one of the first 2 or 3 things you think of are mass protests. So it's not shocking that this is happening.
Shooting and other terrorist, like minor.
Yeah, and all the orange vest stuff that was going on.
And not to mention the election that they just had, which is interesting. Let's just say this then to wrap up. We talked yesterday, and we're planning to do a very special on the night of the DNC, the last day of the DNC, when Kamala Harris is set to speak, and there'll be some of the biggest names will be that night. We are going to host a live show from your wife's venue, QED in Queens, New York. People will be able to join us live via Zoom. And more importantly, if you can join us at the venue in Queens on August 24th.
August 22nd.
We'll be hosting the musical, a Mystery Science Theater-like show. We'll be watching it. It'll be like a watch party, but we're going to have some special guests. So what do you want to add? We're not done.
Yeah. We're literally coming up with this yesterday, so the details are still a little sketchy, but we want to get it on the calendar. And I don't think tickets are available yet, but mark it on your calendar if you would be so kind. And that's going to be August 22nd. And yeah, we're going to have some sort of like people on the mic making jokes, but also some short interview. We don't know exactly sure the details, but it will culminate in us all watching Kamala's nomination acceptance speech together. And we're hoping to keep these good vibes alive.
So if you want to join Christian and I and other special guests in person, come to Queens, New York City on August 22nd. And you can email me and I'll tell you how to get
QEDAstoria.com if you'd like to check out the website. There's no listing for the event yet. That should be up in the next day or two. But QEDAstoria.com.
I can't imagine we'll be inundated with thousands that I'll have to organize. But if you want to start planning, if you want to come to New York, that's where we'll be that night. It'll be a triumphant and glorious night, I'm sure. And I'm looking forward to spending it with you and Cambry and whoever else we have and everybody that wants to join us virtually. So there's that.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else to plug? Anything else to say? Anything else? We've missed you. We're really happy to have you back.
I've missed you a lot. And I feel bad. I owe Cassie Rice an email because she's going to Iceland. And I told her I would give her all this information. I've not given it to her yet. Cassie, who, of course, organized the Vegas event. And
you take care of her.
Yeah, I will take care of her. I feel bad, Cassie, if you're listening, I will get that to you. Toot sweet.
Thank you so much, buddy. Love you, appreciate you, and we'll talk again hopefully next week.
Bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the return of Christian Finnegan. Remember, August 22nd, we will be in Queens, New York, live for the watch party, the big DNC watch party for Kamala Harris's speech. And I hope to see you there. And I hope to see you here on Monday, where I will be back, of course. And let me know who you want to hear from. Suggest candidate ideas for me. Do you have candidates running that you are supporting? Well, send me their information. Get their information. Tell them about me. Email them and set it up. You help produce the show. You help book the show. Come on. I need your help, as always. And subscribe at patreon.com if you haven't already. Why would I say to the end of the show to you bumblebees? Of course you are. All right, that's it. I will talk to you Monday. I hope you have a great weekend.
Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you gotta stand up, stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep things tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You gotta stand up, that's right. You got to rise up, you got to stand up, you got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear and all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. And even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. Point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up. They had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We got to let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right. We got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.